Good evening, and welcome to Friday night, All Levels Yoga. I'm Chris, and it was kind of a nice day today here in Seattle, kind of sunny. I just went for a walk with my dog. So if you're joining in, feel free to let me know if you have any requests for practice. I have a request for heart openers. Hi Joanne, no special requests. Good to see you. So let's start in a seated position. So find your seat. I'm sitting up on my cushion. And let's just kind of drop into our seat, find the heaviness of your lower body. Feel your spine rising up, lengthening from your tailbone all the way up through the crown of the head. So feeling grounded and rooted, and also lifting and lengthening. And just begin to bring your attention to your breath. And you might do so with a sense of curiosity about your breath. Just beginning to bring yourself into this more intimate relationship with your breath for the next hour and 15 minutes. Feeling the breath coming in and out through your nose, filling your lungs, so you might feel some movement of the rib cage expanding and contracting. You might invite the breath to come deeper, so you might feel it deeper in your belly, the movement of your breath deeper in your belly. Allowing your belly to move, so to expand a bit as you inhale and contracting a little bit at the end of your exhale. So if you can relax your face, find a place for your head to be where it's balanced and there's not any additional or unnecessary strain in your neck, shoulders. And just take 2 or 3 more breaths like this. You might close your eyes to do that. And so Joanne said you have no special requests. I have one request from Lori for heart openers, and I can see that Lisa's there. If you have anything you'd like to work on, let me know. So let's start to move a little bit in our seat to begin. So just circling around, kind of rooting your sit bones and gently circling your spine around in one direction. And kind of let the shoulders relax and move along with the circling, and let your head be sort of along for the ride, and then switch directions. Just feeling into this movement in your own way. Maybe linking it with your breath, or just experiencing your breath more completely as you move. And circling back to center and pause for a moment. And then let's sweep the arms out. So you could turn your palms up and go really slowly at first, like you're gathering up the air, and you're gathering it into a big ball and smushing it between your palms. Almost like it has weight to it, bringing your hands back through center. Slowly. Just do that 2 more times. Circling the arms out, palms up, like you're reaching and gathering up the air or some energy. Bringing it together between your palms, bringing it back down. You can feel your shoulder blades sliding and lifting up as you reach up. And bringing them back down your back. And pause here with your hands together at your heart. You might take a quick moment to set an intention for your practice this evening, if you'd like. And then opening your eyes, let's come to hands and knees. And just start some circling with your hips here. You could let your head go to one side and your hips to the other in kind of a figure 8 type movement or a serpentine movement. And then switching the direction of those circles. Slowly starting to warm up the body. And circling back to center. And come to your tabletop position and then just move a little bit forward and back, just kind of starting to warm up your wrists. Kind of wrap the elbows in as you do that. Feeling your shoulder blades kind of tight against the back of the rib cage. So you're bringing the weight out of the wrists and then back through a little bit forward. And then you might come back to center and do a little side to side, just gentle. Circling around. Feeling your hands spreading. And then back to center. Take your right leg back and tuck your toes, stretching into the back of your right calf and ankle. And you could rock there a little bit, back and forth. Kind of gently drawing your belly away from the floor, keeping your head lifted, and staying with your conscious breathing. And then come back to a centered tabletop position. Lift your leg up, reach back, press back through the heel. Take a breath, and as you exhale, draw your knee in towards your nose. Inhale, reach. Moving slowly, exhale, rounding. Inhale, reach. One more time through, exhale, draw the knee in towards the nose, round. Inhale, reach, lengthen back, extend through your leg, and release your leg, circling a bit. And then we'll try the other side. So come back to your tabletop, reach back with your left foot, tuck your toes. And again, you might rock a little into the ankle joint. Feeling your calf muscles, probably. And then back to a centered position, reach back through your left foot, press back, take an inhale. And then exhale, round, draw your knee in towards your nose, lift your back. Inhale, reach, a little bit of arch. Exhale, rounding. Inhale, reach. Exhale, round. One more time through, inhale, reach. Exhale, rounding. And releasing. And circling a little bit there. And then let's walk the hands forward and come into a high-hipped prayer and stretch. Spread your hands, possibly lifting your forearms off the floor. You could bring your forehead down and just first rock a little bit from side to side, right over your forehead. Just rolling your head back and forth. It's kind of makes me feel kind of soothed to roll over my forehead. And then back to center, walking hands over towards the left as you draw your right hip back. Just feeling the stretch up the right side of your body. You could flip your right palm open, bringing the back of the hand to the floor. Take a couple of comfortable, balanced breaths, inhaling and exhaling through your nose. When you're in this position, you can really hear your breath too. Walk your hands back through center and over to the right, reaching. Relaxing the head, finding your breath here, drawing left hip back and feeling the stretch up the left side of the waistline, rib cage, shoulder, maybe flipping palm. Nice steady breath. Relax the neck, and then back to center, and just bring your forearms down and do that same kind of rocking back and forth, just bringing your weight forward and backward. And then back up to your hands, turn your fingertips back and stretch just for a moment. the wrists and forearms and palms this way. You could tuck your toes and bring your hips back and stretch the tops of your, or the bottoms of your feet also. And then come up. You could come up to your knees and consciously step your way up. And we'll come to the front of the mat, if you're using a mat, and come into our standing mountain pose. So just come to stand, find your feet on the floor, about hip width. You can just shake it out a little. Shake your arms. And then come to stillness. And feel your spine. You could even kind of undulate your spine a little until you kind of feel like you're in a neutral position. So your head feels nicely balanced. No unnecessary strain in your neck and shoulders. And then from here, just take your weight side to side. Just really feeling the weight come all the way over to one leg and then the other. You might even start to lift one foot. We don't think of this as being like a core exercise or core work, but you can feel how when you lift one foot, your core turns on to help you balance. And we're really doing core work throughout our whole practice. Coming back to center. And then you might do a little back and forth, coming into the balls and the heels. Balls of the feet and the heels. Without leaning forward or backwards, so you're keeping your body pretty upright. And then finding your way to a centered, grounded position, and sweep your arms out the same way you did in the seated position, like you're gathering up a big ball of light. And you're bringing it together over your head, and bringing your hands back down through center. Then bend your knees and come forward with your smashed ball of light, releasing it. And come into your forward bend with your long neutral spine. Take a couple breaths here, just moving slowly, letting the legs kind of soften and lengthen in their own time. Maybe the knees are quite a bit bent, just finding your own comfortable and reasonable forward bend. Keeping the tail lifting, head and shoulders stay lifted. Nice steady breath. You might feel like forward bends are calming to your nervous system. They might feel like more of a resting pose. I don't want to make a blanket statement, but generally that's what people seem to experience more of in a forward bend. And then step your left foot back, bring your knee down and bring it back so that your fingertips can be on the floor. Lifting head and shoulders here, kind of bringing that inner thigh into the side of your abdomen. Just taking a couple breaths here. You could use blocks if you need to. And then from here, with your left hand on the floor, just open up into a twist, opening your chest. You can kind of keep your left shoulder kind of open so that fingertips might turn out towards the edge of the mat a little bit. And then you could circle the right arm, just kind of sweeping it around, kind of warming up the shoulder, feeling some blood flow there. And the next time you circle it around, then switch the direction of the circles. I think turning the palm mostly back as you come up and around. And then sweep your hand back down to the floor and step back to hands and knees again. And let's reach back with the right foot, pressing back through the heel, keeping your hips pretty close so sacrum stays level. Left arm comes forward, thumb pointing up. And you're lifting away from the floor with your belly, reaching forward and backward through your arm and leg. Gaze could be gaze in the place where you can keep your neck long and neutral, so kind of diagonally ahead of you. Finding your breath, feeling the connectedness in your core. So if you just dump your belly, you lose that connectedness. So kind of pressing into the floor and lifting up. One more breath and release. Circling the hips a little. Coming back to center, and then we'll reach back through the left foot. Pressing back through the heel. Reaching forward with the right arm, thumb is pointing up. Again, feeling the connectedness. Finding your gaze, finding your breath. Reaching and lengthening. And releasing there and circling again. And then just coming back to your tabletop, tuck your toes and come slowly into your downward dog, maybe with the knees bent, maybe bending into one knee and the other. Just coming into this familiar pose, feeling your breath. Letting the neck release a little bit, so you could even kind of just a little like shake and nod of the head. And then slowly make your way into plank pose. Keeping the head lifted. Hips come down between the line of your heels and the top of your head, so long neutral spine. You're pushing the floor away, breathing. And then I like to bring my knees down for the first one at least, coming onto my belly, and come into Sphinx. You might tip your tailbone down and lift your belly so that you can feel some ease in the low back, feeling opening in the chest. And take a couple breaths here. And then let your arms come forward and sweep them back, clasping your hands maybe, and lifting your upper body. Again, keep the neck at ease here, so no cranking the neck, just keep it long, neutral. And then rolling a little bit from side to side. And then rolling onto your left side. Just feeling the left shoulder is kind of pinned and your right shoulder can slide. Opening the chest and breathing. Keeping the jaw relaxed. Rolling back onto your belly and over onto your right side. Breathing. And back onto the belly. And then just release for a moment, rock the hips. Just let your hips rock from side to side. And then bring the hands together in front of you and bend your elbows, pressing fingertips together, palms apart, broadening in your upper back. And then releasing, bringing hands underneath the shoulders and pressing back up to your downward facing dog, taking your time to get there, easing in. Maybe stepping right foot up and over left, bringing the sole of your right foot to the floor and lifting your right hip. Lifting belly, breathing. And back through center, your left foot over right, sole of the left foot to the floor, left hip lifts. Feeling this lengthening up the left side of the body. And back to center. And then we'll step the left foot forward and bring the right knee down, bringing fingertips to the floor. Keeping the head and shoulders lifted, finding your breath here, finding your gaze. Nice steady breath. Feeling the rhythm of your breath. And even here you could invite the breath to come a little deeper into your the lower part of your lungs, even the sensation of the breath in the belly. So making a little space for your breath in your belly so the diaphragm can move. And then keeping right hand down, you could lift your left arm up, opening the chest. Might turn the fingertips a little out towards the edge of the mat, press into the floor, lift up, and then circling your arm like we did on the other side. Making big sweeping circles in one direction. And then you could switch the direction of the circles. And bring the hand down, and then prepare yourself to step forward. So do it mindfully, using the core and the strength of your legs and a little bit of momentum to step forward, coming into your forward bend. Once again, long spine. So it might feel good to put your elbows up on top of the knees and kind of rest some weight in there and lengthen the spine out. Sometimes I get a little adjustment, a pleasant adjustment in my spine doing that. And then release the hands again. And then if your lower back is good, you have two ways to come back up. One with your long neutral spine. If your back's okay with it, you could walk your hands up your legs and draw the belly in, engaging, and just round yourself up, doing it consciously, letting your head be the last thing to come. And then sweeping the arms up. Take a couple breaths here. So rounding down through your sacrum, lifting up through your pubic bone, lengthening all the way up the front of your body. And then bring the arms back down. Again, two ways to come down. You can just come down with a long spine, or if you want to round down, just do it very consciously, as long as it's okay for your low back. Draw the belly in, let your head come first, middle of the spine. Knees are bent, rounding down consciously, and then coming back to the fold at the front of the hip, long spine. Nice deep breath here. Noticing the effect of the forward bend on your nervous system. And then from here, let's start by stepping the right foot back. And let's come into Warrior One first with the heel lifted, bending your both knees actually. Sweeping the arms up. We're going to come into Warrior Two in a moment, so take a couple breaths there. And how to get to Warrior Two. Think about it. Just plan it. You're going to bring your heel down and sweep your right arm back. Maybe lengthen your legs apart a little bit and come into the bend of your front knee, keeping your body straight up and down. So you're not leaning forward. And take a couple breaths, kind of gazing out over your fingertips. Feeling this right hip opening and wrapping back. And that sensation goes all the way into the foot. And then flipping your front palm, you could come into a reverse warrior. Taking a breath there. And then sweeping, windmilling the arms around into extended side angle. Maybe your elbow is on your knee, or the hand could come to the ankle. Nice steady breath, feeling your strong legs. If you have your elbow on the knee, making sure that you're pressing and lifting up out of the knee so you're not shrugging down into the shoulder. And then just windmill the arms down and step back to downward facing dog. And take a breath there. And then come forward into plank. pause there for a moment, pressing the floor away, lifting belly. And with your elbows by your sides, coming down halfway at most, and then up into cobra. Or you can lift your thighs, come into upward dog if you want a little more. Takes a little more effort. And then make your way back to downward dog. And just find downward dog as a little bit of a rest. You can also come into prayer. Just going to make sure there's nobody else asking for anything. And we're going to do the other side here. So that'll be starting with the right leg forward and coming up into Warrior One with your back heel lifted, both knees bending, so that you can keep your pelvis kind of neutral, perpendicular to the floor. Nice steady breath, find your gaze. And then just giving yourself a moment to imagine your transition into Warrior Two. So turning the back heel and maybe coming a little wider with your feet. Body stays upright, coming deeply into the bend of the front knee, gazing over the middle finger. Left hip wrapping back, feeling both feet firmly on the floor, and then flipping right palm, coming into the reverse warrior. Staying with your Ujjayi, steady, comfortable breathing. A little deeper into the bend of the front knee. And then windmilling your arms, coming into extended side angle pose. Elbow to knee or hand to ankle. Or a block. Nice steady breath here. Staying strong where you need to be strong in your legs. Maybe a little loosening of the shoulders, relaxing somewhere. And then sweeping the hands down, step back up to downward facing dog. And just take a breath. Let's come forward again into plank. And hold plank for a moment. And then with your elbows by your sides, coming through chaturanga, halfway down at most, coming up to cobra. Press into the floor, let your shoulder blades slide, lift the heart, lift the crown of the head. Take a big breath. And then back up through prayer to downward facing dog. And maybe here in down dog, you could just reach your right hand back for your left ankle. Maybe gazing underneath the left arm to complete the twist with your neck. And release that hand, let your left hand come back to the right ankle. Feeling the twist in your upper back. Still drawing right hip back, so long through both sides of your torso. And release that. And then let's let the knees come down. And just come into a prayer for a moment. Just take a break, let your head come down. Again, roll over your forehead, side to side. Letting this forward bend really be a way to bring your nervous system back to calm. Your heart rate coming back to more restful heart rate. And then coming up, let's come up to forearms. And we'll come up to dolphin pose. So take a couple breaths there, feeling really strong in the shoulders. Feel your shoulder blades against your rib cage. Kind of looking down at the floor, you might let one leg lift. So keep the hips really still and level while you do that. Try not to let one hip drop. And then the other leg. And bring it back down. Let your knees come down and come into child's pose, resting your shoulders, letting your head rest. Arms could come back and just let the shoulders totally soften. And then from here, let's come up. Let's try coming up into camel pose. So you could tuck your toes. Bring your left hand back to your sacrum. Let's do it like this. Reach your arm back. So you're in like a kind of a little bit of a back bend and side bend on the right side. And then bring the right hand back to sacrum, left arm up. Kind of looking back over the right shoulder. Feeling the big stretch at the left side and in the front of your body. And then one more time, side to side. Nice steady breath. And then the other side. And release it. And just come forward, come into hands and knees. And do a little cat-cow just around the spine and kind of bring some of that back bend out. Bring it back to neutral. And then let's, I just had one and I lost my next thought. So let's come back to down dog because that'll feel good on our back. Oh, I know what I was going to do. So we'll do down dog first. Just kind of evening yourself out. And then come back to your knees. And let's do a few of these where we reach forward. Try not to let your shoulders creep up. So just kind of set your shoulders and let yourself come back and forward. So challenging your core and your quads and glutes. The next time you come back, you might hold it for a second. Try to breathe comfortably. And then back up. And again, just drop into your all fours and up to downward facing dog again. I'm not done with standing poses yet, but let's lift the right leg up. Open your hip, let your right knee bend. You could straighten and bend your knee a couple times. Feel those glutes as you straighten. And then back up, squaring the hips, draw that knee forward for pigeon. Just slowly making your way forward, minding your knee, finding your long spine and your breath. Really staying in the moment of your practice with your breath, noticing your mind's tendency to wander off. And just think of your breath like a shepherd's crook. Every time your mind starts to spin out into some story or judgment or whatever, just let your breath kind of correct it and bring it back. So bring your attention back to the feeling of your breath coming in and out through your nose, how it feels as it comes into your lungs. Sometimes with the breath, there can be almost like a euphoric feeling if you're really feeling it and wanting the breath. You get kind of a I guess for me it feels kind of slightly euphoric. And then from here, taking some variation of a twist. So it could be with your forearm, your left forearm across, reaching for your knee, reaching right hand back to your sacrum as you stack your shoulders, or maybe reaching for the foot. You could come come up onto the hand. So taking your time, breathing. Sometimes when I'm in this position I'm in right now where I'm up, I have my heel right into the psoas, and I can kind of get a little like pressure into my front of my hip in a good way, like not into the nerves or the vasculature, but into the muscle there, into the psoas, and then release. And use your strength, tuck your toes, and lift yourself back up to downward dog. And then we'll let the left leg come up, open the hips, and bend and straighten your knee a few times. So feel, for me, I feel here, I feel the psoas deep in my belly, and I feel my glutes, especially as I straighten my leg. And then straighten it up, come back to center, draw your left knee forward for pigeon. Taking your time to come forward, maybe holding some of your body weight with your forearms. So you're folding forward. If you feel any pinching in your hip, you could tuck your thumb into the hip and kind of, I don't really have pinching on this side, but I do sometimes on my right side. You can kind of pull to make some space in the hip. You can also come back up a little so you're not so deep in the fold. It's not really a good kind of feeling to have that pinching, and it probably over time isn't great for the fibers and the tissues in there to be feeling that kind of sensation. Means that there's probably something that over time could be possibly harmful. So just paying attention to the signals from your body, and then moving into a twist like you did on the other side. And again, in this position, I can get my heel right into the front of the hip and kind of feel it in my psoas. It's kind of it's like using a ball to get in there. You might be able to feel that too. And just slowly releasing. And then using that same strength, tucking your toes and lifting up. Let your head release a little bit. Let's come sideways on the mat. So I'm going to step my right foot forward and turn and come into a wide-legged position. Coming in forward into a forward bend. So you could reach for the outer edges of the feet or be resting on your hands. Just finding something that feels good for your body in this forward bend. When you reach for the outer edges of your feet, it's kind of easy to let the shoulders kind of crunch up, so find a good position for your shoulders. See if you can kind of draw them down the back of the rib cage a little bit. Not like you're jamming them, but like you're keeping them from being in an awkward sort of rounded position. And then you might release and bring your hands together and clasp the hands. Maybe turning a little from side to side. And then release the hands again. And walk your hands forward. And where are you reaching from when you do this? So you might feel like the shoulders are shrugging up. So see if you can kind of find the right spot for the shoulder blades, where it feels like somewhat comfortable. So they might be, your shoulder blades might be up a little more, sliding up a little, or you might experiment with sliding them down, just feeling kind of that neutral place. If you can keep your left arm forward and reach your right arm over towards your left lower leg, you could do that, or you could also just take both hands over there to the ankle, but you could try having your left arm forward and looking up underneath the arm. Noticing where the weight is over the soles of the feet, so kind of evening it out. And then release that side, bring your right arm forward, possibly reach for your left ankle. So both hips draw back. Might be looking under the right arm, breathing. And releasing back to center. And then let's turn your toes out a bit and bring your hands to your hips, come all the way up. We'll do a little horse pose, so maybe keeping the hands on the hips to begin with, and sitting down. And then sweep your arms out like we did, gathering up the air. And bring the hands together through center. Do that a couple times. So feel how steady and strong your legs are, and your arms can move really fluidly and freely. And one more time, sweeping the arms up, staying really strong in your legs. And then you could do a little of this side action. So keep your legs right where they are, and then let your arms sweep as you go side to side. Just kind of trying to be fluid with your arms. Feel a little gentle stretch up the side of the body. Maybe one more time to each side. And back to center. And then straighten your legs, turn your toes in, come into the forward bend again. And you could walk your hands out, so you're coming into like a plank pose with your legs wide. So find your hips. And then walk back to your forward bend. Let's just do that one more time. Walk out with the feet wide. Pause. And walk back, hiking your hips. And then heel toe your feet in a little closer. Turning the toes out, coming into this lower kind of version of the squat, pushing the knees apart and finding your upper body parallel with the floor. You might reach forward with the arms, reaching back through the tail, sit bones. Again, where are your shoulder blades? And do you have a choice about where they are? Nice steady breath. You could reach your hands back and clasp your hands. Keep pushing your knees out. And then come into the forward bend. Release your arms. And with your feet a little wide like this, you can bend your knees and just clasp your hands and hang for a moment. Let go of your head. As much of knee bending as comfortable. Or maybe none, but just being mindful of your spine, your lower back. You might sweep from side to side, letting the head go. And then maybe taking the hands back behind the neck and clasping the back of your head. A little tractioning. Nice deep breath. And then release your hands and heel toe the feet in even closer so they are hip width. And then just like we did at the beginning of class, bend your knees and walk yourself up, rounding. Intentionally draw the belly in, let your head be the last thing to come up. And let your arms hang. Do a little side to side, just releasing. And coming back slowly to center. Let's do a couple of one-legged balances. Let's actually turn and face the front of the mat, and let's step the right foot forward, left foot back, so pyramid distance, clasping your hands behind you, or you can bring the hands into the sacrum, either way. Rolling the shoulders back and lifting your right foot. So real strong in the center. Take a couple breaths there, try to breathe comfortably. Then bring the foot back down, keeping your hands clasped. This is the move of the year. You could keep your hands off your back as you come forward. About halfway, drawing the right hip back. Pausing there, halfway with the arms clasped, hands clasped. And then release your hands. You could come down the leg or to the floor. Take a couple breaths there, just taking your time in pyramid. Sometimes it feels good to bend the left knee a little bit and feel into the ankle and calf. And just another breath. And then let's bend the right knee and come up, bringing your left leg up, so you're on your fingertips. And we'll take a twist, so lift your right arm here, fingertips are on the floor. Keep lengthening through the right side of your torso, drawing your right hip back, opening the chest. You could try taking your fingertips off the floor. And then release both hands back down. Bring your foot back down. And pause for a moment, and then we'll take the twist here. Opening up into this revolved triangle. Again, feel how your right hip needs to lengthen back. Wants to creep forward maybe. Open the chest, let the head come back, breathing. Slowly releasing, hands back to the floor. And then from here, bend into your front knee a little bit, step your left foot forward, and come into a squat. So the knees are opening out. You might be able to sit down in the squat and lengthen up. Maybe pushing the knees apart with your elbows. And we could do an arm balance, we could do crow, making your hands wide. And making a shelf with your arms for your knees, lifting up the feet if you can. Taking a couple of breaths there. Feel your breath. Try to stay with it a little longer than you usually do if possible. Not if it's hurting in a bad way, but just see if you can challenge yourself. Coming back to your squat when you're done, when you're ready. And then from here, coming up into the forward bend, turning your toes back so your feet are parallel. You can hang a little bit, bend your knees, clasp elbows, let the head hang. And then release the arms. And let's walk up the legs. Keep the spine rounded and the belly drawn in, coming back up like we did. Rolling the shoulders back, coming into your standing mountain pose. And then we'll step the right leg back. I'm going to turn around this way, I guess. So the hips are square. And reach back and maybe clasp hands. Lift your left foot. So really strong in the center, strong in your standing leg. Steady breath. Steady gaze. And then the left foot steps forward for pyramid. So the feet are hip width. Hands stay clasped, maybe stay off the back. Coming forward about halfway down. Pause there. Finding your breath. Nice long spine. And then releasing the hands. And take a couple breaths, maybe bending your back knee a little, just seeing if you can move the left hip, so if it starts to creep forward, you feel that, you can lengthen back. Keeping the shoulders kind of drawing back so there's not a lot of crunching up in the shoulders and neck. I should say unintentional crunching. And just another breath there, feeling the legs reluctantly accommodating this position. Or maybe they're joyfully accommodating it. Usually it takes a minute, was the point. And then we'll bend into the left knee and step up, fingertips on the floor. And we'll open into the twist, so we'll open the left arm, drawing the left hip back. You can bend your standing knee. You might turn to look up, maybe lift your right fingertips up off the floor. Nice steady breath. And then slowly releasing and stepping back slowly to your pyramid again. Cover for a moment. And then we'll take the twist here with the right hand down, left arm up, opening the chest. Again, feeling where your left hip is in space, drawing it back. Both feet on the floor, feeling the weight of your body, how it's distributed here over the soles of the feet. Unwind the arms and pause for a moment. And then bend your left knee, step forward again into the squat, pressing knees apart. And let's do another round of crow. So hands wide, knees on top of your elbows or your upper arms, lifting feet. Drawing up in the center. Try to keep the head lifted, tail's lifting. Challenging yourself, breathing. And then just coming back down. And this time kind of turn your toes in. And the best you can, this is never graceful for me, sit down. And maybe let's come towards doing some boat. So you might just first just rest for a moment, just kind of find a little bit of a resting position. Let your breath, usually after I do crow, my heart rate's a little high, so just calming down. What's your heart rate, Lori? Does it say?
91. What would that be? I don't feel like it, but I've had a lot of anxiety.
91, she says. I'm sure mine's 91 right now. And then let your knees drop apart. This will calm the heart rate down a little. Just come into a little bit of a forward bend and tortoise, bringing your face towards you, the soles of your feet. Rounding intentionally. Again, maybe lifting belly, letting knees drop open. One thing you can do to make your heart rate come down more quickly is to really focus on the exhale, like extend your exhale, make it a little longer. Tends to be calming to the nervous system. And then come up. And let's do a little practice of boat pose. So hands back behind the thighs. You might just first find your balance and where you want to be on your sit bones. So keep lifting up through your chest. And then maybe let the feet come up. You might straighten legs, or you could, I'm going to keep my knees bent. And then maybe release. And it helps for me to bring my arms up a little so that I'm like reaching and lifting. Take a couple breaths there. And then hands back behind your thighs and come back to that resting, rounded forward tortoise position. You could even bring your feet further forward. And then let's do one more round of boat. So it's your practice. For me, it helps to start with my hands behind my thighs and come about halfway up with my legs, with my knees bent. Another way to play might be to straighten your legs and hold your toes. You could start there. Maybe let go, take a few breaths. Easier for me to bend my knees. So reaching up, breathing. Can you find your steady breath and then release it? Again, just maybe this time more of a cobbler's pose, so the feet could be in a little closer. Taking a couple breaths there. And then let's reach your hands back. Let's bring feet about the width of the mat. Hands back behind you. So a little bit wider than the mat. Let your knees drop over to one side. So let's say to the left, pick your right arm up, bring your hand over, so you're in a little bit of a twist. Just keep your legs right where they are. And then sweep the right arm back up and over and start to lift the knees one at a time, keeping your feet where they are. Knees come to the right, left arm comes up and over. Pause there. And then in your own time, you could go back and forth, just making it kind of one continuous flowing movement to one side and the other. And then back to center. Straightening your legs. Coming into a forward bend for a moment. So finding your breath here. Nice steady breath. Take a few moments there. You could kind of rock a little to get your sit bones to kind of be like your tailbone is reaching back. You're coming kind of in front of the sit bones a little bit. You could then sit up and bring your right leg on top. So cross your legs and come into the forward bend with your legs crossed. You can use a strap for this too if you would like, if that's more comfortable, just to keep the shoulders from rounding. And then release that and bring left leg on top. You might feel it in a little different part of your leg. So like I feel it more in this kind of outer hamstring on my left side with my legs crossed. Sometimes we do it standing, especially if I really flex my left foot. And release it. Then step your right foot in and bring your left hand back behind you, kind of first drawing your knee in with your elbow. So you're sitting up, kind of pulling the knee in. And then reach your right arm up. And you could use a strap here too if you want to. Try to come forward and see, if you can't reach your foot, use a strap. And your right knee is probably going to want to kind of drop out to the side, kind of hug it in. The next part of this pose is to wrap, and I'm not going to do that, but if that's part of your practice to bind, you can wrap around and do kind of a twist of the binding. It's a little much for me. And then coming up and letting your knee drop out to the side. In fact, it feels good to me to press my knee down and kind of lengthen up. If that feels good to you, you could do that. Kind of getting a little leverage. That might be with a pillow under your knee as well. And then just take a twist, so bring left hand to your right knee. Breathing. And unwinding, and then coming forward, maybe with your strap, and head to knee pose. There's lots of ways to do this with the hands. You could have the hands just on the floor, so it's a little more kind of the effort of your core to maintain this long neutral spine. You could also grab the foot, which kind of takes a little of that, changes that effort. Or some people will reach for the wrist. So you would reach for your right wrist with your left hand and help pull yourself forward. And that's only if it feels right for your body. The strap is a good choice as well. Releasing that. And then let's extend the right leg. And draw the left knee in. Again, sitting up tall, so you could wrap your elbow around your knee and kind of draw it in for a moment. You might be able to get a little length in the spine that way. And then with your right hand back behind you, lift your left arm and come forward. Again, the knee kind of wants to drop out. You might be able to reach your foot, and you might be able to kind of pull your knee in towards your shoulder. Again, you could come into the bind if that's part of your practice. It doesn't feel like the right thing for my body, so I can do it if I have to, but it's a lot of muscling in and then just come up out of the pose. Let your left knee drop out to the side. Again, if it feels good, you could kind of press into the thigh and just lengthen up. Especially after I did that bind, it feels good to kind of take some of the contracting out, lengthening. And then coming up and taking the twist, right hand to the left knee. Spiraling up. Feeling your breath. Releasing jaw. And slowly unwinding and coming forward, maybe with your strap or taking any of the other variations, hands on the floor, or taking your right hand to the left wrist. Coming into head to knee pose, breathing. And slowly releasing. And let's come into a wide-legged seated position. I'm just going to come in a little closer. So come into this position. You could bring your hands back behind you and lift your heart. Let your feet your feet go back and forward, just feeling there's some rotation in the hip there. And then kind of find the centered place where your toes are pointing up. Sometimes it's good to have your hands back behind you. You could even release them so that you're coming forward. If you're coming forward, you're not using your arms to pull you, but you're finding this long spine and Maybe releasing the arms. Walking hands over towards the left foot. Just like we do in the standing wide-legged forward bend. You could let your head relax. Feeling a stretch up the right side of your waistline. And then walking hands through center and over to the other leg. Maybe reaching for the foot. You can use your strap also. Letting your head relax. And then back to center. And let's use your hands to bend your knees and draw your legs in and roll back onto your back. And you could bring your hands back behind your skull and kind of just lift up and stretch the back of the neck. You could bring your elbows to your knees or around the outside of the knees. And then just really slowly roll back, kind of feeling that a good stretch in the neck, supporting your head and bringing it down. And then with your feet on the floor, arms out to the sides, bring your feet a little wider than the hips and come into deer pose. So let your knees drop to the left. Pick your left ankle up and bring it on the right knee, maybe. And take a couple breaths there. Feeling your breath coming in and out. You can really feel it in the right side of your rib cage. Oh, excuse me. I really need to stay away from the floor lately. It makes me sleepy. And then release your ankle from your knee if you're doing that, and bring the knees back up and over to the other side, knees to the right. Maybe right ankle on top of left knee. Nice, calm, steady breathing. Release your jaw. We're just bringing ourselves now towards our final resting pose, Shavasana. Releasing that, bringing the knees back up. You might try happy baby pose. Just rocking a little bit. Maybe straightening the legs. And then draw your knees into your chest. And just taking any last movements or poses. And then we'll make our way onto our back slowly for our final nap. Shavasana. So bringing yourself there when you're ready. I'm going to sit up on my cushion and turn the lights down. But do give yourself a moment to let everything surrender and have this final rest in your practice. So, feeling the back of your body against the floor. And just be here for a minute or two, but let yourself be heavy and surrendered. So let the weight of your head completely settle back as gravity is supporting you. If you need to adjust yourself so that your neck feels good or you have some cushion under the head or something, that's fine. Letting the shoulder blades be relaxed and heavy. You can feel those bones, those flat scapula bones against the floor, back of the rib cage. So all these landmarks that you can feel touching the floor, back of the sacrum. It's part of your pelvis. Maybe you can feel your spine, the bones of your spine. feeling the heaviness of your legs, all of the muscles that you use to get around during the day, softening. Outer hips, releasing those glutes, and down to the heels, which are also resting against the floor, backs of the hands. And then if you can close your eyes for a moment and just feel the effects of your practice, the energy that you've cultivated in your practice. Some of it's kind of staying with you, and then there's kind of a new sense of calm that comes over the body when we've exercised and moved and squeezed and done all of these things. There's kind of a peace that can come with that. So see if you can feel that kind of endorphin generated calm. Lots of reasons why we practice, and if we're practicing for physical fitness, that's just fine. If we're practicing for spiritual reasons, that's just fine. If we're practicing for our breath, for our muscles, for our flexibility, for our strength, because it makes us feel better. There's just so many reasons to show up for yoga, and all of them are valid. And sometimes when we show up for just for physical fitness, we get the realization that there are some other emotional benefits or spiritual benefits, and vice versa. So owning our practice, or I should say our practices, because there's so many different practices that we associate with yoga that we can do regularly. We have some pretty good examples of people here at the Hatha Yoga Center who do lots of different practices daily, like Key McGraw. So just taking a few more moments, kind of noticing how you're feeling, noticing the way your heart is beating now. You might feel calmer, feeling the breath. It's very gentle in Shavasana. And then I'm going to ring the bell just for fun. I don't know how well that comes across on the video, but you could bring yourself back up to your seat and take a moment there, pausing in your upright seated position for a moment, coming back to your breath. You're going to take yourself out into your evening now. So you might bring your hands together at your heart, pausing to recall your intention if you set one for practice. Taking a couple of conscious breaths here in this vertical position. And then bowing your head to your heart, to your own practice, to your own inner teacher, your higher self, or your higher power. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening.
Namaste.
Namaste.